In Deluge, you play as a skeleton reanimated by the evil spirit Ganglem and sent to slay everyone in a small village.
On guard!
Deluge is a remake of Riggy 2K3's 2021 Deluge 2003, which was developed in the very old and limited RPG Maker 2003 engine. This remake version was developed in a newer version of RPG Maker, so it still has some of the constraints of the RPG Maker engine, but it uses all of those constraints and the strengths of the engine as well to its advantage. Deluge is a small, contained experience where every puzzle fits together and has reasonable solutions if you slow down and take your time. The game's only about 5 hours long, but it is a very rich 5 hours. Time passes around you and random events can occur. Each home has a story and puzzle to go with it, and there are winding passages and secret areas to find if you look closely. You always have a task and a place to be, so you never end up wandering aimlessly, and so the pacing never goes awry. First, you must explore to find a weapon, stumbling into the weaponsmith and looting a sword and shield, or not doing that and later uncovering magical spells throughout exploration. If you didn't grab the sword and shield though, it makes this next fight harder as a townsperson confronts you, but you can instead choose to pacify him and try to get along. It doesn't work out right away, but this sets you on one of two paths: either carry out Ganglem's evil orders or learn about your past connection to the village and its inhabitants and choose to save them. You learn sometimes through dialogue and other times through object interactions and environmental storytelling that you had an affair with this married woman. Her husband forgave her after she cut things off with you, and you can choose to save them both, just her, or neither. You do battle with your mind-controlled son and can pacify him or strike him down. Small choices too have big outcomes, like watering this garden will give you a special item later, or how taking time to fish gives you a better ending outcome. I think the most striking part of this game to me is that as you explore, the game doesn't hold back with its violence. Ganglem is truly evil, and the game doesn't sugarcoat it. You find corpses constantly as you explore and get a bit numb to them, though it is still shocking when a human character's life is threatened or entirely in your hands. You feel the stakes strongly through this violence, which I'll talk about a bit more later on. The combat is an important part of this game, and while it is simple, it has a good flow and is highly impacted by how much you explore, as your skills and items available to you are dependent on that exploration. I also like the parts where a combat hint is given to you in the story, so in this area with all of these chests, occasionally a chest will release an enemy, and this note tells you that if you have the lightning spell, it will make these enemy encounters a lot easier, so then I chose to come back to this area later after I'd explored and found the spell. With human enemies, you can try to pacify them. Some enemies will ambush you, and you'll run into some of the other skeletons Ganglem resurrected and choose how to deal with them, so there's a lot of varied combat encounters. Combat has a heavy bearing on the story, and death is not the end, since you're already dead, so you just re-resurrect, which I really like. Healing items and locations are abundant if you once again slow down and look around and use the resources available to you, like this priest, where you can exchange out your objectively worse herbs for the meta herbs. Another phenomenal part of this game are the music and sound effects, which all fit together and never once feel out of place. It has amazing footstep sounds, which, as I always say, are a great first step, get it, to making me immersed in the game world. It came together along with the sprite animations to make every interaction feel meaningful, especially as the game constantly drip feeds flashbacks and learning about your own past, constantly increasing the stakes. Also, because you're already dead, the build-up to learning how exactly you died in the first place keeps you always a bit worried for each new discovery. I think what impressed me most about this game is how it tells a powerful story without extremely long cutscenes or dialogue dumps. Every word is valued, and the game takes great pains to tell its story visually, often tying the environment you're exploring and the objects in it to a flashback, which contrasts beautifully with where things are now. Telling the story visually is also a great way to describe the combat system, because sometimes the combat scene will be used not really as a combat encounter, but rather as a unique way to show an interaction or a choice. Like for this battle with the wizard, you can choose to kill him by selecting his body, or choose to pacify him by only attacking his staff when he refuses to back down. Also, when talking of Ganglim's past murders and assaults, the game doesn't hold back on showing them and allowing you to tangibly experience it alongside your main character who's reliving it. Some of this stuff can get really harrowing, and you feel that panic right alongside the main character, so in this way you feel very tied to him and are constantly right alongside him in terms of discovering things, so you never feel any cognitive disconnect. This is the biggest takeaway I have for development on my own game, Grimdelve. Words are often the path I choose to express the impact of player choice in Grimdelve, but after playing Deluge, I want to add even more options for choices to manifest themselves in the form of either unique outcomes or outcomes happening outside of your control. One of the most powerful moments for me in this game is when I chose to save my affair partner, but I couldn't find her husband since I didn't realize this was a door, and then later when I figured it out, I found him dead. The dialogue reflected how I felt. Whoops, shit, I messed up, crap, I feel bad. And it really did feel like he was dead because of me. Damn, I really screwed that guy, I'm a piece of shit. And you feel like a piece of shit often throughout this game, although you still feel like you can also be redeemed. That's a powerful internal conflict to feel over your own main character's morality, and I too am inspired to revise some scenes in my game to fuel a similar kind of moral conflict in my players. I did feel like Deluge fell a bit flat in its ending, which is difficult because a lot of why I felt that way probably stemmed from me failing to explore everything. This is a tricky balance to find, because I shouldn't have to explore every nook and cranny to feel like I got a full experience. But quick spoilers here for the ending because I do want to talk a bit more about it. The entire game has been building up to your battle with Ganglim. You have to defeat lesser demons that have their own stories and mechanics attached to them, and other puzzles or choices you make will influence the tools you have against Ganglim in the final battle. It's all building up to him. But ultimately how that final fight played out was kind of boring to me. I was doing the pacifist route, so I pacified my son and he took down the magical barrier protecting Ganglim. Then I stabbed him with the magic dagger I got from being friendly with the wizard, though I assume you can still get it if you kill him, and after that he died, I walked outside, and fade to dust, roll credits. I couldn't believe the game just ended like that. You stab the guy and he dies. No final scene of the townspeople you saved commenting on your death or coming together to heal and rebuild or anything. The game just ends. There is a cool final recap sequence that is definitely based on your choices, and this filled some of the hole, but I really felt like the game ended too abruptly and then just gave me a text dump on a black screen, which felt out of place for how polished and intricate and meaningful the rest of the game was in showing instead of telling. I was helping all these people, surviving all this buildup, and then I just fade away without seeing the further consequences of my actions. I still think this game is a powerful experience and that the consequences you experience in the moment are fun and moving, but I still wanted more. I guess that's a good thing too, though, that the game left me wanting more. Maybe a different ending feels more complete, though I'd still argue that you want each ending to feel satisfying to players on its own, which is a struggle I'm gonna have to face in writing all of the endings for Grimdelve. Deluge still is a very powerful experience. The story feels heartfelt and is full of a lot of love and charm. The townspeople are all distinct and memorable, and your rivalry with Ganglim is a fun one that still has real stakes. It definitely feels like a classic RPG storyline, but one where you can really see the impact on NPCs and the characters all feel a bit more real. That's really what it is. Everything in Deluge feels real and important, and that's why I liked it so much, because it respected my time, my intelligence, and delivered a strong story about regret, betrayal, and the moral conflicts all humans experience. It's a great little game, the developer's a great guy, and if you need your faith in video games restored, you should definitely give it a purchase.